Looking at statistics, that's the section of our calculator we're looking in today. If you've got anything in there, can you make sure you clear all? And so you should have just list 1, list 2, etc. Okay? So all of the data we're looking at today is in statistics. But it's really important that we know how to do each thing in here because it's a bit confusing, alright? Because this statistics section is used for lots of different types of stats, okay? So, the first thing we need to do is if we're looking at data like this is all one variable data, okay? So if we're looking at a histogram or a frequency table or just a list of data, it's always one variable. We're just looking at one thing and how many times it happens, okay? So just be really aware of that. Next lesson, we'll be looking at 2 variable data and things will change a bit. But for everything we're looking at today, we're looking at 1 variable data. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have some data to look at, alright? So we'll just start with something really simple. So in list 1, can you just put in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and in list 2 we put our frequency. We put in, for example, 3, 5, 2 and 1. Make sure that you don't do this too quickly. With like a computer, you know when you write in lots of numbers and the computer sort of stops to think and then suddenly it catches up after that? Your calculator doesn't do that. If it stops to think, it doesn't record anything you're writing. So if you write really, really fast and your calculator misses it, it's not going to catch itself back up. So always make sure you do it quite slowly and just double check your numbers because a lot of the time people just make really simple errors here. So 3, 5, 2, 1. Now in this situation, this is from a frequency table. What's list 2? In the table, what's list 2? List 2 is the frequency, okay? So we need to always remember that because we have to set that in our calculator. We have to say, we're just doing one variable and the frequency is in list 2. So we need to make sure we tell our calculator that. The way which we do that is we go to set graph, setting. So up here, set graph, setting up the top. We need to tell the calculator what we want to do. So what sort of graph have we looked at for this sort of data? Histogram. So we're going to go histogram. Then we say, okay, the list of the X list, so the scores, are in list 1. Then it says, where is the frequency? Where's the frequency? In list 2. Okay, so we need to change that. We need to make sure that we write, okay, this is there, this is there. So the scores are in list 1. The frequency is in list 2. That's really important that we know how to do that. So I'll just put that in here. And then we click set. Okay? So this is where the scores are. This is telling us where is the frequency. And we'll do a different list of numbers later where we have to change that differently. And we need to make sure it says histogram for 1 variable data. Right? So we click set and nothing really changes. We're still on that table, okay? We're just setting your calculator to tell us what information we need. Alright, we then want to actually draw a histogram, okay? So we click on this graphing button up in the top left hand corner here. This button here. Oh, no one, sorry. So if you guys click on that, there's going to then be a page. So this is graph a histogram. And a new page is going to come up, which is really important. It says H start and H step. what we want to say is, for H start, we want to say, what number does it start at? So what number do our scores start at? 1. The H step says, what's the difference between the midpoints, or what's the difference between those scores? So what's the difference between those scores? 1. And so you need to make sure that you write 1 there. And then click OK. Question? For your calculator, for our calculator, that's just what we're saying. We're just saying start, that's the first number, and then we move up from there, okay? But you're right, if we were drawing it, it would be different. Alright, so H start, where do the scores start at? How much do the midpoints go up by? Because we usually use the midpoints in here as well. Go up by. And that should make us a nice histogram. See how it's all even? If I didn't do that, I'm just going to go back for a second. If I didn't do that and I went, I want a histogram, and I leave it, okay, it comes up with a histogram which isn't right. Can you see how that histogram there is not correct? So it's really important, if we want to be able to see what the histogram looks like, that we make sure we get that H start and H step right. Right, so I'll try it again. 1, 1, and so now we've got a nice histogram there. Now that just gives us a little bit of a sort of demonstration of what a histogram should look like. It's not really a good one for us to copy down. You've pretty much got to do what we did last lesson, okay? But it does sort of show you what it should look like so that you'll be able to do a comparison. Question? Alright, but the most important bit, you sure? Oh, sorry, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that shows us a histogram. We then need to find the actual stats. So we want to find the mean, the mode, the median, the range, the minimum, the maximum. All of those things which we've looked at this week, you can find on your calculator. Where we go to find that is calc one variable. It's really important that we go to one variable. Calc one variable. Once again, you have to tell them where the data is. So the scores are in this one. The frequency is this 2. And we press OK. Now I'm just going to write some notes about that and then I'll move up. So, to get the statistics, can't spell. So to get the statistics, where did we go again? Calc one variable and change the frequency. Calc one variable, change frequency. To list 2 and press OK. It gives you this whole list of information. This is where you get all your stats from when you're in the calculator section. It's pretty easy, alright? But we need to know what each bit means, so there's a few different symbols we need to know about. So we'll just start with this section. Alright, what does the X with the line mean? Mean, not average, it's the mean. The mean is a type of average. Okay, what does this sign mean? It means the sum, it's a summation. So what do you reckon the summation of X means? Sum of x means what all the scores added together equals. Okay, we don't often get asked that question though. The sum of x squared, so each of the numbers squared, the sum of them. We don't really use that one very often either. This next one though is one of our lessons coming up, and this is called the standard deviation. Standard deviation. We'll spend a whole lesson on that, okay? But you need to know where to find it. The next one we don't use, it's a different type of standard deviation, but we use the top one. N means number of scores. Min X, minimum score. Q1, lower quartile. Okay, then there's more. Now, sometimes on your calculator it has lots and lots of modes. Your calculator doesn't work with like no mode. You know how you said there's no mode? Instead, what your calculator does is it lists all of them. So if you've only got 5 numbers and they're all different numbers, then your calculator will go mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, mode 4, mode 5, okay? So just be aware of that. But for this one there is a mode, so it's 2. So we'll go with this. Med means median. Q3, upper quartile. Max, maximum, mode equals mode, okay? Don't worry about these ones. So we're just looking for the mode. Be aware that if there's lots of them, they're going to write all of them. There's no mode function, alright? So every bit of stats you need to know is in there. It doesn't tell you the range, but how do you find the range? Max take min, and it doesn't tell you interquartile range, but that's just Q3 take Q1. Okay, so it does tell you all the information for you to be able to find those things. Any questions? Yeah. If there's no mode, then the mode thing would pop up lots of times. So if, like, for example, the data was like 2, 3, 4, 5, it would go mode 2, mode 3, mode 4, mode 5. Okay, so it doesn't differentiate as like no mode, it just gives you everything as a mode. Alright? Any other questions? Okay, we still need to do 2 more things to do this, but they're the general bits of information you need to know. So you need to always change the settings to start with and tell them where frequency is. You need to make sure you do your H start and your H step in the right spots for your histogram, and then you need to go to calc to find out all that information. Where most people go wrong, they forget to set it as a histogram to start with, or they go to 2 variables instead of 1 variable when they go to calc and their answers are all wrong. Okay, so be aware these are all 1 variable piece of information. Alright? Okay, really quickly, we're just going to look at 2 different sets of data because we just need to know if we see it in a table with group data, and we need to know if we just get a list of numbers. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. So, what about if I gave you a list of numbers like this? 2, 3, 5, 5, 7, 8, 10. What do you think we would do differently when we come back to this list? I'm just going to make it bigger and clear all. So I want to say 2, 3, 5, 5, 7, 8, 10. How would I put this into my calculator? I could put in a frequency tally on the right hand side if I wanted to, and then I could do exactly what I did just before. But there's actually an easier way. Vincent? Good. We put in a list of numbers. We don't even have to put in the frequency as one. Okay, so we go 2, 3, 5, 5, 7, 8, and 10. Instead of putting in anything in list 2, we just leave it blank. Sorry. we just put it in as blank. Alright? So, when there is a list of numbers, we leave list 2 blank, and frequency is 1. So instead of a list, we just write the frequency as being 1 whenever we do all those things. So, just like before, I go set graph, setting, histogram, and this time I say the scores are in this one, the frequency is 1. And what's that saying is, it's saying instead of there being a frequency list, it's saying each of those scores is just once. Every score I've written is once, and so that's why I've written the 5 twice. Each of them is written one, each of them is 1. Okay, so that's the difference. If there's a list, what we have to change is that frequency there being as a 1. And then we can click set. Okay, so that's where frequency as 1. That's where we go. Alright, so I click set, data's still there. What do we do now? Graph it. Okay, it starts at 2. They go up by 1s. And we click OK. Why are there gaps in this? Good, because there's none of those numbers, so the frequency for that number is 0. Okay? So, we then want to find our data again. So we want to find mean, mode, median. So we're going to go calc, 1 variable again. The only thing difference is frequency is 1. We'll just leave it there. And we click OK and we get all our data. Any questions about them? No? Alright. Last one. Everyone okay if it's a list? So same thing. Okay, last one. What about if it was group data? So I said 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29. There are our scores. This is our frequency. How would I put this into my calculator? So I'll restart it again. How would I put this into my calculator? If I put 0 to 9, it comes up with -9. The calculator doesn't understand 0 to 9. Chris? Good, we have to put in the midpoint, so instead we put in 4.5. Okay, so you must put in the midpoint instead. So 4.5, 14.5, 24.5. .5, 14.5, 4.5, 2, 4, 5. Okay, after that we do exactly the same thing. Where's frequency for this one? List 2, good. So frequency is in list 2. And so we do exactly the same as before. So we go set graph, setting, histogram, list 2 for frequency, set. Now the graphing one's a little bit different. Where do we start for this? 4.5. How much, what's the difference between them? 10. So that's where we need to go with this. So 4.5 and 10, and we get our histogram. Same deal for calc, 1 variable, list 2, and we get our data. Okay, so that one's very similar to the first one I did. sometimes the graph goes back. No. So group data always has to have the same groups. That's why your histogram always has the same distance in each group. So if you end up with something different, you've made a mistake. So there should always be the same difference between them each. That's a good question. So that's how you use your calculators for this. Any other questions?